Now, in this technical demonstration, we're going to bring an element of automation. Now, in many cases, your support teams are not going to be using the Centrify Access Manager to manage groups and users. They're going to be using other tools such as ADUC, where they'll simply be adding members to groups. In order to facilitate the automation, we want to be able to create Unix profiles for Active Directory identities as they get moved into the environment. So what we've done here is we've created several groups for global users and global groups. We've also created a service account that will be used for the Centrify Zone Provisioning Agent. Now, the Zone Provisioning Agent, or ZPA, is designed to automatically examine the zones looking for changes. And if provisioning is required, new Unix profiles can be created. By the same token, if users are removed, Unix profiles can be removed or deprovisioned. So let's run through the configuration of the ZPA. Now, as mentioned before, I've already created my provisioning groups and my service account that will be used for the ZPA. We've also installed the ZPA earlier as part of the initial installation of authentication and privilege. But we do need to make a few changes. The first is we need to go into the services. And under services, we're going to go to the Zone Provisioning Agent service. And we need to change the logon from a local system account to the domain service account that I created earlier. So from here, I'm going to select this account and I'll click Browse. We'll change this from the local server over to the entire directory. Click OK. And we're going to look for the account. This is going to be the Zone Provisioning account. We'll go ahead and add in our password. And we'll click Apply. Now, as you can see here, the account has been granted the logon as a service right, so it can manage the service for ZPA, and we'll click OK. We can now close the services, and now let's go ahead and look at the control panel for ZPA. So this will be under Infrastructure Services, and we'll open up the Zone Provisioning Agent configuration panel. Now, as you can see here, it's monitoring the entire forest. Now, this is still acceptable and certainly supported, but in this particular instance, we only want to monitor our zones. That's where we're looking for changes. So from here, I'm going to click Add, and I'm going to browse down to my Centrify zones. And we'll click OK. Now that I have that in place, I'll go ahead and remove the entire forest from being monitored. I can change the polling interval. I can also change the event log to include Unix profiles for provisioned users and groups. I have the option to turn on debug logging, and once again, I have my service account in place. You'll notice that the current status is that it's stopped. Now, this is done because we have made these modifications. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to click Apply, and then we'll start the service. And now the service is running. We can now go ahead and close the configuration panel, and now we'll go back over to Access Manager. Now from here, now we need to prepare the zone structure for automated provisioning and deprovisioning. So in order to do that, we're going to do this from the global zone. As you can see here under Unix data, I currently don't have any users. We're going to go ahead and right click, and we're going to go down to Delegate the Zone Control. We're going to click Add, and we're going to go find that service account again, CFY-ZPA. Now, we have to delegate zone control to this account so that it can add users and groups and remove users and groups. So they don't need all delegated tasks. They only need those specific to their role. In this particular instance, adding users and groups and removing users and groups. We'll go ahead and click Next, and we'll click Finish. So now we have delegated zone control, and we have the monitored zones that we want to look at. Now we just need to set up the properties to handle the provisioning. So we'll go back to the global zone once again. We'll click Properties, and we'll go over to the Provisioning tab. From here, we'll enable provisioning for user profiles, and we're going to select our source group, which I created earlier. And we're looking for global users. And we're not going to make any changes here. These will all be automatically generated. We do also want to enable auto provisioning for group profiles. And once again, we'll browse and locate the global groups. And once again, these will be auto-generated as well. So now from here, we'll go ahead and click OK. So now the zone is being auto-provisioned, which means that if we add users or groups to these provisioning groups, the zone provisioning agent will recognize it and take the appropriate steps necessary. So let's go ahead and test this. As you can see here, I still do not have any users within the environment. Let's go ahead and open up Active Directory users and computers, and I'm going to go to the global users group, click members, and I'm going to go ahead and add members. Now all of my Active Directory groups begin with the word team. So let's go ahead and just take a look at those groups for a moment. And we're going to go ahead and add the members of these groups. So I'm going to go ahead and select my contractors group, my finance group, help desk, IT, sales, and security. And we'll click OK. Now all of those groups will have its members added to the global users group. And we'll go ahead and click OK. Now it's important to remember that the zone provisioning agent is set on a polling interval of every 60 minutes. So if you want to force this provisioning or deprovisioning to take place, there is a command prompt that you can use called the Zone Provisioning Agent command prompt. Now from here, I can run a command called Zone Update. Now I can run it with a /p to preview what changes are about to be made. I also have to supply the zone, in this case, global. Now as you can see, all of these users are about to be provisioned. Now they haven't been provisioned as of yet. I can wait for the interval to take place, at which point they will be provisioned, or I can force that by running the zone update again. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and remove the /p, and we'll press enter. And now as you can see, those provisioned users are now completed. If we return back to the Access Manager, and I give this a quick refresh, you can now see that all of those users have now been added. They have a user ID, primary group, and a home directory. We also have identified a Unix name for each of them. But keep in mind, once we've assigned roles, they'll be logging in with their Active Directory identity, not with their Unix profile.